Hey guys, this is Chris, and here with me is Jeremy Marcotte. Hello, Jeremy. Oh, hey,
Hey man.
hey, Jeremy. Oh,
All
cool.
right, so let's do this. What can
Yep.
I do for you?
Well, uh, can you please introduce yourself?
Okay.
Yeah.
My name is Jeremy Marcotte. I am the founder of Getro Fit. I've been
Oh,
working with Paul Pantone for the last
yeah.
almost 5 years now on the Geet technology that he developed back in the early 80s. I live up in Massachusetts. I am a veteran and a father of 4 children. Um,
Ah.
don't really know what else to say about myself
Oh,
aside from I've got a couple of degrees. I'm in the process of going back to school in the fall for engineering
oh,
to further
nice.
develop Geet.
I
And
I
yeah,
thought
that's about
Paul
it.
founded Geet.
Say again?
I thought Paul Pantone founded Geet at
He
first.
did. He founded Geet. I founded my own organization beneath Paul called
Oh,
Getro Fits. I'm a distributor of Geet products.
oh,
So each licensed dealer has their own name, if you will.
oh, nice.
Yep.
And talk about serving in the military, because unfortunately I don't get that many veterans on. Everybody's always busy, but talk about exactly like what's it like being in the military.
For me, the military was an eye-opening experience. I joined the military in 1999. As I got out of high school, I went into the delayed enlistment program. And then in February of 2000, I was off to boot camp down at Lackland Air Force Base. So after basic training, I went to Florida to become a tactical air control party member, where those are the guys that are integrated with the Army and they call in airstrikes. So uh, fast forward, I've done 3 combat tours. Um, the hardest part for me was Iraq the first time I went over there because I was actually in charge of a few guys, and the thought of not knowing during one particular event if they were okay or not was kind of the line in the sand, if you will, for me to get out.
Oh,
So I did 8 years active duty and then 4 in the guard.
so you
Um,
basically you wanted to join the army, and you probably needed it too, right?
Yeah, I joined the Air Force because I
Oh, Air
felt that
Force.
my skills could have been better suited towards the Air Force, being a grunt. No, nothing against them. There's some great guys out there, but I felt that I needed to use my brain power more so than beans and bullets. So that's why I joined the Air Force, because for the longest time my brother's like, "Oh, dude, you should join the Marines. You would love killing people." It's like it's not about killing people, even though that might seem like it's all fun and dandy. It's not about killing people. It's about
Oh,
protecting your country, which I found out later on there are some half truths to protecting your country. So,
yeah,
but
and one of the things, like, I respect and thank all the people who serve. But when it comes to General Wesley Clark saying that wars were planned, what do you have to say on his? Because we're gonna
as
ruin 7 countries in 5 years. Was it?
yeah, I mean, as far as wars being planned, I mean, think about it. Do you just wake up some morning and go, "Hey, I'm gonna go fight this country because I don't like what they're doing"? No, absolutely not. I mean, war is something that you have to strategize and figure out a way to go to war if you don't really have an enemy. Now, if you have an enemy, it's a completely different story. And the reason why I say that is because if you have an enemy, you have a target. You get a declaration of war from Congress, like you're supposed to do, and then you go to war, you fight, you win, you come home. You don't stay there and build nations. That's not what we're supposed to be doing. You go over there, you beat up the enemy, and you come home.
But,
And a
but
lot of people are failing to realize that the wars that we're involved with right now, they are perpetual wars in the aspect of me saying that because we don't have a defined target. We don't have I mean, we have a declaration of war, I guess, but our target is who? You know, oh, terrorists. Well, technically speaking, if you say something wrong about the government, you could be considered a terrorist.
Oh man,
So it's a
this.
perpetual war, and you have to plan stuff like that out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but but the way he
About 10
says
days
it,
after 9/11, I went through the Pentagon and
this is
I
General
saw
Wesley
Secretary
Clark. Wars were
Rumsfeld
planned. 7 countries in
and
5
Deputy
years.
Secretary
Those countries
Wolfowitz. I
haven't
went
done
downstairs
anything to
just to say
us.
hello to
Why are
some
we
of the
gonna
people on
invade
the
our
Joint
homeland?
Staff who used to work for me. And one of the generals
Well,
called me in. He said, "Sir, you got to
hold on one
come in. You
second.
got
Let
to
me
come in
listen to
and
this
talk to
guy.
me a second." I said, "Well, you're too
This
busy."
is
He said,
some
"No, no."
democracy
He
now.
says,
It's independent
"We've
media.
made the decision. We're going to war with Iraq." This
Why?
was on or
I don't
about the
know.
20th of September.
That
I said,
that
"We're
Right.
going
sounds
to
like a
war
red
with
flag
Iraq.
there.
Why?" He said,
Yeah,
"I don't know."
that's a good question.
He said, "I guess they don't know what else to do."
Well,
So
think.
I said, "Well, did they find some information connecting Saddam to Al Qaeda?" He said, "No, no." He says, "There's nothing new that way. They've just made the decision to go to war with Iraq." He said, "I guess it's like we don't know what to do about terrorists, but we've got a good military and we can take down governments." And he said, "I guess if the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem has to look like a nail."
Yep.
So
And
I
that's
came back to
think
see
about
him a few weeks later, and by that time we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, "Are we still going to war with Iraq?" And he said, "Oh, it's worse than that." He said, he reached over on his desk, he picked up a piece of paper, and he said, I just got this down from upstairs," meaning the Secretary of Defense's office today, and he said, "This is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria,
That's messed
Lebanon,
up.
Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran."
That's we
now.
have bases
Oh,
around Iran. We're eventually gonna have to
right
invade
now.
them. It's an agenda.
Now,
Like what?
something I want you to think about, though. Okay, when was that taken? When was that video clip?
It's uploaded in the 2011, but I don't know if
Right.
the person uploaded there or
2011.
I'm sure this
Okay,
was
if
like a
you
few
can
years
figure
back.
out when that video clip was actually taken, okay, it may have been uploaded in 2011, but the actual hearing that he said that, okay, if you look at the timeline, everything he has said, we're going to war with Iraq. We did that. We're still at war with Afghanistan. Okay, we did that. We went after Syria. We did that. We did Libya. Okay, and we're still looking at Iran, but now we're also looking at Russia.
We're trying to start wars with Russia and Ukraine, and why are we even there in the first place? That's just asking for trouble now.
I mean, I have to look more into what's going on with Ukraine before I can really make any educated comments on it. But much like any of the other confrontations we've gotten ourselves into, leave other countries alone unless they ask for our help. If they don't
Yep.
say, "Hey, United States, come in here and help us with this threat," why the hell are we getting involved? That's just my thoughts, though.
And they're not gonna do anything against like try to bring Soros into justice because George Soros brags that he was openly behind the Ukraine conflict.
Right.
So why are people even looking at trying to go out against Russia? But Soros, he's like untouchable. Nobody's gonna try to investigate him.
Well, I believe it was like the Pink Party, or I don't know who those ladies were, but they busted into a hearing and they tried to do a citizen's arrest of, I believe it was Soros, and they basically got dragged out of there by the cops.
Oh, a
I mean,
citizen's arrest on Soros. I didn't know
I'll be
that.
honest with you. I mean, those who are in power are freaking out that the population is waking up.
Hmm.
So, I mean, that's only my take on it, and that's some of the stuff that I've been listening to.
That's not gonna
I try to
happen.
keep an open mind and
Anytime soon.
search everywhere for the answers. I don't just go to one specific source. I'll bounce around and get my own collective thought and say, does this make sense? Why is this happening?
Hmm. And then you have Kissinger, who's also another front man here. He was indicted in Cambodia. He was part of the.
Yep.
But like, still, there's a controlled opposition. He funds, and then basically they're no threat to him, even though they were like in the same room. So they were saying he's a war criminal, and they have you have McCain calling them scum, which
Right.
it takes one to know.
I mean, think about that for a second. We got these guys who have committed atrocities across the globe, and they're still walking around like they've got nothing to fear. Well, I'm sorry, you do have something to fear. You got the population waking up, and when they figure out what you've done, they're gonna put the foot to the ground and make you freaking shake in your boots.
This is Code Pink. This is from Democracy Now!
Challenges at a Senate Armed Services Committee meeting. Kissinger served as Secretary of State and National Security Advisor during the Vietnam War under Presidents Nixon.
Kissinger for war crimes.
Committee will stand in recess until the Capitol.
Arrest Henry Kissinger for war.
You know who's watching that was probably a victim.
In the name
I don't want to try to incite violence or anything, so I'll just keep that to myself. Any messed up stuff, but like just the emotion part, you can't blame anybody if they're angry. Why he's still walking around. So every time
and I mean, the one thing that I talk to people about when it comes to what's going on in the world and the revolution and everything else like that, it's like, you know what? If they're stirring the pot for violence, go in the opposite direction. Do not go for the violence. Stay away from it at most if you can. If it comes down to it that you have to defend yourself using the violent means, by all means protect yourself. But have the intellectual revolution and wake people up before it gets to the violence, because they want you to be violent. They want you to go out and just start shooting up places and everything else. You don't want to do that because you're going to hurt the cause. You're going to hurt the movement of people that are trying to do things the right way.
So if you make a peaceful revolution impossible, make a violent revolution inevitable. John F. Kennedy.
That's true, and that's the absolute truth. If they're going to make it very difficult for us to speak our minds peacefully, which, think about it, they've got First Amendment zones. I'm sorry, the First Amendment's the entire place that I walk. Wherever my foot is, that's a First Amendment zone. You can't section people off to, let them speak their grievances. The First Amendment's there for you to speak out actively wherever you want. So if they're going to make it difficult, of course they're gonna cause violence, and that's something that I try to stay away from. Is I don't want the violent side of it. If I don't have to be involved with that, I'd rather not be. But if it comes down to it that I have to get involved with it that way, I'm going to protect my family.
Definitely, at all costs, protect your family. And in case anybody who's listening, who's the first time listening, what in your perspective is, how can you explain what the New World Order is for any new listeners out there? Like first time.
As far as what I know of what is coined the New World Order, it's a ruling class that basically dictates how the rest of the world is going to run. And their overall goal is to decimate the population by 90%.
Yep, Georgia Guidestone.
And then everybody else will be considered the working class slaves, and they have all the power. They have all the technology to live for years and years and years. Whoever knows how many years that is, I don't know. But they have the technology, and everybody else is just a bottom feeder.
You know what's one that is like really shady when I look at it? When I looked at the Georgia Guidestones, there's like cubes on the top right-hand corner, and it said 2014. So they probably wanted to achieve something on the 2014. Then they took that down when they didn't come up with their goal. Now it's 2015. In the next few months, it's really going to hit the fan.
Well,
that's my prediction.
Some of the ways that people are projecting things to go is nuclear war with Russia. Some of the other thoughts are we're going to go and have some sort of civil event happen where we have to declare martial law, which means our illustrious current dictator is going to retain the powers and stay in office for however long it takes. you know, because that's what can happen is they can cancel the elections. A lot of people don't realize that is those that are in power can do that kind of stuff because the people are silent.
And since they're just going along with it, they're not standing up for themselves. The elections is really it doesn't matter who you choose. It's the same agenda. Like I don't know if you heard of Bill Hicks,
I have.
Bill Hicks on election night. Like I don't know if it's exactly like that, but this is how he would explain it.
I have this feeling, man, because there's a handful of people actually run everything. That's true.
That's true.
It's provable. I'm not a conspiracy nut. It's provable. Handful, very small elite run and own these corporations, which include the mainstream media. I have this feeling who's ever elected president, like Clinton was, no matter what your promises you promise on the campaign trail, blah, 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 when you win, you go into this smoky room with the 12 industrialists, capitalists.
So so that's a picture of George Soros, and I saw a little picture on George Soros, and he's holding Obama like a little puppet, which is so true.
I've seen that picture.
What?
I said I've seen that picture, and when you think about what Bill Hicks said, I mean it is provable.
That's probably what happens. It's just probably not as violent as you would think.
Right. It's the way that they're doing it is incrementally. They bring in a little bit here. They see if they get any resistance, and then they slide it right on and say it's something else. Then they do it again with perfect example is the healthcare stuff. That whole fiasco. Okay, they just slide it in and they say, "Oh, don't worry about it. You can keep your health provider. You can keep all of this stuff. We're just going to insure everybody for free." Well, guess what? It's not free. And everybody thinks it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. But you know what? If you look at what's going on, healthcare has actually gotten worse. Doctors are having a hard time keeping up with everything. And now the tax system, H&R Block and frickin' Jackson Hewitt, they're like, we don't understand this thing at all. Because they have to do the taxes. If you don't sign up for health insurance, you get fined. Oh, well, what's up with that? I don't want it.
And
why the hell am I going to get fined for something that I don't want? That's like buying a pack of gum or saying you don't want to buy a pack of gum and then getting charged $2 because you didn't want to buy it.
Oh, that's stupid. What about the vaccine issue?
Well, as far as the vaccine issue goes,
the vaccines now. After they say safe and effective, it is not safe and effective.
Right. And honestly, as far as the vaccines are concerned, I'm not a doctor. I don't know any doctors personally, except for the ones that take care of my kids. And I'm not anti-vaccine. If you want to go out and you want to get a vaccine, by all means, that's your life. I chose not to vaccinate my children because I looked at what was in the vaccines. I did my research, and I chose not to. But if somebody else wants to go out and vaccinate their kids, that's their choice. Just leave me the hell alone and stop saying my kids are germ bags.
And they're doing damage to their own kids, and then they'll wonder why their kid is messed up in the next few years, wearing a diaper for as long as he or she's still alive, and really, and all the other 9 yards. So
right.
So they're really they're like starting to push this. It's a kind of like bullying. They force you to take the vaccines. They say safe and effective. And I've had Dr. Emily Bow on not too long ago. She's a physician for over 40 years. And even she agrees that they're not safe and effective. Even if it's a good vaccine, it can't be safe and effective.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. You're going to go ahead and inject these kids with more than 36 shots now. I think it's up to for their schedule. I mean, when I was a kid, I want to say it was maybe like 8 or 10. I don't really recall. But the effectiveness of these vaccines, they're saying, oh, yeah, it's 95 to 99% effective. Okay, well, on your inserts, it also states that it can cause Guillain-Barré, which is a paralyzing disease. It can actually give you the disease that you're trying to prevent. It can cause seizures, and it can cause all this other stuff. That's on the insert. But yet people are still drawn to believe that the risk outweighs the risk. And it's like, how does that make any sense?
And you know what's one thing I found today is that in somewhere in Texas in McDonald's they give you vaccine for a happy meal.
Right.
Like how stupid can this get? They don't even give you the inserts or anything. They just give you a free vaccine with a happy meal.
Well, check this out. My wife was doing some research on vaccines in general because we get into heated discussions about this. It's a very sensitive subject. And one of the things that she had found was when you get a vaccine, you're supposed to be quarantined for at least 2 weeks because of the shedding, and it sits in the back of your throat, and et cetera, is that you can actually give somebody the virus that you're immunizing, getting the vaccine for, and you're supposed to be quarantined. Not once did they tell her that you were supposed to be quarantined. Not once was it brought up. She found that out just recently, and she was pissed.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's coming out more and more that the whole Disney fiasco with the measles, there was actually somebody who got a booster shot that was spreading it around. It wasn't the unvaccinated kids spreading it. It was somebody that had gotten a booster shot. They didn't know they were supposed to be quarantined for 2 weeks because it can be shed, it can be spread. So they were out having a good time at Disney. Next thing you know, a bunch of kids get measles.
Oh man, that's unbelievable. And by the way, the shots they give you, it's hepatitis shots.
Yep.
So it's somewhere in Texas. Was it Amarillo?
Well, the
Amarillo.
hepatitis shot. I mean,
Yeah, free vaccination shots offered by McDonald's. This is from Amarillo.com. The City of Amarillo's Department of Public Health and the Caring for Children's Foundation of Texas will offer free vaccinations for children from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Saturday at McDonald's restaurant.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. And, I mean, you were saying something about the hep vaccine. Okay, when we were in there for, I want to say it was for Brian, my son. As soon as he was born, they're like, all right, do you want to give him the hep vaccine? We're like, can we have some information on it? And they're like, well, why do you need that? It's like, because we want to do our research. We want to make sure it's safe.
Oh,
and as soon as we asked for the insert, they started getting concerned.
Radical.
The whole floor was wondering why we're turning down the vaccine and we want the insert. Wow. And then when we said, no, we don't want the vaccine, thank you very much, they're like, well, what about school? Well, what about school? We got waivers for that. Yep. We're going to homeschool.
Homeschool? Wow. How does that work? Like, exactly. Like, what if you have to, like whenever, what about when kids are, like, graduating or something, like, and you're homeschooled? Like, how would it work, etc.? Like, I mean, what's the difference in homeschool? Like, I don't know.
You can homeschool a child all the way through high school. It's completely up to you how you want to do it. Some kids decide they want to go to school for their high school years. Some kids decide they want to stay home. Perfect example is my sister. She's got 3 kids. She homeschooled her oldest 2, and she's going to homeschool her newest born. And the oldest 2 are now in school, and as soon as they got to school, they're getting straight A's across the board. And they're like, we're bored in school because we've already learned this stuff like 3 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, my nephew's running into an issue right now that he's not doing his homework, or at least not turning it in. He's a smart kid. He gets like 114 on a test, but he doesn't turn in his homework, so he's getting a C in class. It's because he's bored. No?
So what about when it comes to, like, past their senior year? Do they get, like, some diploma or something?
I don't know how that works particularly. I think you can just go and get your GED, or you can sign up to one of those things to get your high school diploma. But as far as homeschooling's concerned, I don't know how that works.
You say you homeschool your kids, right? Or
yeah, we're going to. We're going to be homeschooling.
Oh wow, all of them, pretty much.
We've got 3 that we're going to homeschool, and there's 1 in school right now.
Wow.
Yep.
And I guess it's also the Common Core, you know, and that's also stuff that kills the reputation of the public schools.
Yeah, it's more than just Common Core though. It's the institutionalization, and basically it's dumbing kids down when you go to school. If your kid is homeschooled or goes to say Montessori or Waldorf or something that's geared more towards kids learning, you're going to have better results. But instead, you're going to cram a bunch of kids into a classroom. Hold on one second. I'm not. Cram a bunch of kids into a classroom, and then they force them to learn something. And everybody learns at different paces. Not only that, but they're not learning to learn. They're learning how to pass a test.
Oh. Wow.
So instead of teaching a kid to follow the rules but think outside the box to accomplish something, be a creative thinker, be proactive and things like that, they're like, no, you're going to be a cookie cutter kid and we're just going to push you through the system. So
and if you don't agree with that, then you won't pass the test.
Pretty much.
So that's gonna basically just I think more like the IQ of the nation is gonna slip a few points. They're gonna wonder why are we people passing the test? Well, they obviously can't do it.
Though, I mean, we are number one in the world for obesity. We're number one in the world for sicknesses and diseases and everything else. And we have slipped. We used to be number one in the world for reading, math, science,
used to be.
all of those things. And now we're like 20-something for a couple of those. We're 13th here and there. I mean, and it's only getting worse. And people are like, well, it's because our education system sucks. No, it's not necessarily that the education system sucks. It's because the government's gotten their grubby little fingers involved in every facet of your life, and you're too stupid enough to say, hey, look, we had a good system before the government got involved.
Well, and it's the deliberate dumbing down of America from Charlie Isabel.
Right.
I don't know if you.
And I mean, it doesn't help that there are things that are in the water supply, like the runoff and the fluoride and everything else in the water supply, and you can only do so much to filter that out. And fluoride has been linked to IQ reduction. And that was out of one of those medical journals out of like Harvard or Yale or whatever the hell it is in Boston area. You got these pediatric journals and these other medical journals saying fluoride is bad. But yet, hey, we're going to put fluoride in the water supply and you're just going to deal with it.
And then and if people try to say anything, they'll just get really ticked off, which is
pretty much.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And like people, and you have people like straight face looking at the camera in the media, it's safe and effective. Nothing's gonna happen to you. It's just, I don't know how people just put up with this.
Well, I don't know either. I mean, there was one news lady, and I'm trying to remember if it was Lead or if it was Mercury, and they were saying that it's actually good for kids. And when I sat there and I heard that, the first thing that popped into my head is this woman a moron? Does she have any clue what mercury can do?
This video, right?
Mercury-containing vaccines may have on kids.
A life-saving device wins over-the-counter approval by the FDA.
And sick of your glasses and contact lenses, a new corrective eye surgery is approved to watch reporter Seema Mathur.
Mercury-containing vaccines may help, not harm kids, according to 2 new studies in the journal Pediatrics. There have been widespread concerns that mercury-based preservatives in vaccines might impair the neurological development of children. These new studies suggest that the opposite, that the preservatives may actually be associated with improved behavior and mental performance.
It's so going to make your kid more docile, easier to control.
People call you weird just for pointing that out.
Yeah. And they're like, oh, well, all these doctors are saying it's safe, so I'm going to inject my kid with it. Well, the last I knew about heavy metals, mercury is on that list, and it's highly toxic.
Oh well, I guess people want to win a Darwin Award. Let them.
Hey,
I'm a fan of Charles Darwin myself. So you want to win a Darwin Award, go win one. But don't force me to win. Don't force me to play in this stupid mind game. Of why don't you do it? How about you do it and come back to me and see how it went?
yeah, yeah, exactly.
So so you said you don't know that much about the Ukraine crisis, right?
I don't know enough about it to really talk in depth. I know that we're getting our nose involved in something we shouldn't be. And that's about as much as I know. And I don't think we should be putting our nose in other people's business just because, we're trying to do the right thing. If we want to do the right thing, wait until somebody asks us to help them out.
But this is also the stuff I don't get. Somebody whenever I talk to people, like even recently, they always give me this conventional wisdom. Oh, we should do that, and this and that, and that's what it should be. They wouldn't do that. The such thing that you're talking about, Chris. They don't realize that the country is being hijacked. Like anybody, like these people care what you think. They're not. The people don't call the shots.
No.
The people don't call the shots. The power structure that runs this place calls the shots. We can't even realize that. And now we're just gonna, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if the people actually called the shots, we wouldn't have the health care bill that was passed, because 86% of the population, when that whole thing was going on, said that they did not want it. And guess what they did? They passed it anyways. And they still got reelected. How the hell does that work?
And the thing is that Congress is being blackmailed, obviously. Exactly. I guess they got their families in the crosshairs, the CIA or NSA or whichever agency got them in, you got to do what we say, otherwise we're going to eliminate you and your family. So that's what they probably told. I'm not really sure, but I'm sure that they're told that. And so, like, they had to go along with it. So what else are you going to do?
Right. So, I mean, it's a big cluster F, and if the people really want to make change happen, and honest to God change, like turn the cities around and turn the communities around and then turn your county around, then you can turn your state around. It has to start at the local level. Go out and meet your neighbors. Have some weekend lunches where everybody in the neighborhood gets together, form a community, get like-minded people together, build off of that and keep going. And next thing you know, your whole state is moving in the right direction. Then you can take that and you can bring it to another state, and that state can move in the right direction. And I know it all sounds good, just, lip service and on paper, but when you think about it, if you really want to make a positive change, you have to start at home and with your neighbors. That's the only way you can make something happen. You can't expect everybody else to do it for you. You yourself have to be empowered enough to go out and do it.
Yeah, and before I go on, I want to get your take on two deaths that recently happened. One guy that worked for the New York Times, David Carr, drops dead just hours after interviewing Edward Snowden. And the other one, the CBS correspondent Bob Simon got a car crash.
I didn't hear about Bob Simon, but I did hear about the other guy. I didn't realize that he had spoken to Edward Snowden. I find that very interesting that he keeled over after the interview. I do find that extremely interesting.
Yeah.
As far as the other guy goes, I don't know anything about that one, honestly. I don't have cable anymore.
The conspiracy theory thing is tingling. When I just heard right after the interview, I think of this.
Then I went to technical services, where I was in charge of finding documents that
The
you
heart
don't find
attack
in
gun from the
libraries,
CIA. Declassified a long time ago, but-
like where you put explosives on a bridge. Where's the best place to put an explosive on a bridge, and what kind of explosive do you have to get that goes underwater without destroying its effectiveness? Also, I had to find one time they wanted me to find out if there was such a thing as a poison that was undetectable, especially one that seemed to mimic a heart attack.
Come on.
That would kill someone, but it would appear that they had a heart attack. I did find such a thing.
Does this pistol fire the dart?
Yes, it does, Mr. Chairman, and a special one was developed which potentially would be able to enter the target without perception.
The poison was frozen
That
into
was also
some
because
sort of
Stanley
dart,
Kubrick, because
and
he
then
was
it was
also
shot
killed because of the
very high
Eyes Wide
speed
Shut, which
into the
revealed a lot about the
person.
Illuminati.
So when it
And they-
reached
they-
the person,
they
it would
edited
melt
that.
inside them, and the only
They
thing would be
poisoned too.
like one little tiny red dot on their body, which was hard
Well,
to detect.
as far
There
as
wouldn't be a
those
needle
video
left.
clips goes, they're overpowering what you're saying. I heard you say something about Stanley Kubrick and the Illuminati.
Yeah, I apologize. The Stanley Kubrick, it's a movie Eyes Wide Shut. Warner Brothers won't release the unedited. So, because after he died, they edited the film, and then it's like around maybe 27, 28 minutes. They edited it out, and they won't release it. You know, I guess I wish there was more demand for it to be released, because that's actually exposing what the Illuminati is. What do they do behind closed doors? All the satanic rituals, etc. So they poisoned him. He died in his sleep. I'm not stupid.
Yeah.
This stuff happens. Come on.
Right. Now, as far as what you pulled up, I mean, is that actual testimony? Because I haven't seen
this is
clips
staged.
like that before. So that's what?
There's no way it's a stage. This is somewhere in the 70s.
Okay. So it's like an actual testimony before Congress or something.
Yeah. But back to David Carr's situation, he drops dead just hours after interviewing Edward Snowden. The establishment doesn't like Snowden. They want to kill him. So most likely this guy was killed. That's my theory.
Right.
And
I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of evidence that can support your theory. I did not know that he was interviewing Edward Snowden. I just knew that the guy dropped dead. That's all I knew. So to hear that he was interviewing Edward Snowden and then drops dead hours after that,
come on.
It's a little suspicious. I'll admit that. It's definitely suspicious.
I talked to people about that stuff, and they're like, "Oh, come on, Chris." I guess they must not know about the
We're
war
beginning
much.
with an ending, and we're doing
Oh,
this
yeah,
to
and
give you
this
a
is
better
the
idea
story
of
itself.
what's been lost.
Okay.
There was a car wreck in Manhattan last night. Nothing remarkable, except the one.
It's basically, I think they bugged his car so that he could crash. You know, that's what I think.
There was another situation similar to that. I can't think of the guy's name. Ugh. It was like 2 years ago. This guy was getting ready to expose something huge, and then his car crashed and he died.
Michael Hastings.
Yes, Michael Hastings.
That's how they got him. That's what I was saying before. And it's car hacking. This is from Infowars. They made like they were acting it out and somebody played the role as a hacker, but that's how it would turn out, because basically somebody played the role. That's as if, let's say, those tracker things that they give in Progressive to save money. He threw it out, but what if Joe Biggs did get it? So so he starts. It's basically like a acting. So you would have one of their employees, Leanne McAdoo. She has the role of Flo, and he's as a customer. And this is some of the footage. He turns on his car.
And sure enough, he had
he's listening to Alex Jones.
Corruption coming out.
But
he was in contact with WikiLeaks and was about to do a big data dump. And the official WikiLeaks has come out and said they talked to him 1 hour before his car blew up. And he said, the FBI's after me. They're investigating me. We've got to hurry up and get this done. Well, they got you done.
Michael Hastings, they got him.
And the police
and this is someone, you don't see the picture, you don't see the face, but you see like a hacker.
Witnesses said the car caught on fire and blew up driving down the street.
Yeah, I mean, stuff like that. Yes. They're coming out with Google cars that are...
Of course, people don't realize this stuff.
Well, that's like...
Target is in the vehicle.
Being able to use your cell phone on a plane.
Do I have to go ahead to terminate? Roger. Standing by for clearance. Roger that. Termination is a go. Cutting brakes. Disabling airbags. Accelerating car to a high speed.
That's what's gonna happen, and I'm not saying that that's what necessarily happened to Bob Simon, but
right,
it just keeps you thinking, because that is totally possible. Come on.
Well, I mean, if you can program your computer in the car using a laptop computer or even your cell phone these days, what is stopping somebody else from hacking into your system and doing just that? Seriously. I mean,
and this is ABC News that came out with that. Back then, even Alex Jones would predict it many years before. Now it's coming out ABC News and a bunch of other.
Yep.
They call it driverless cars, which is not really
right. The driverless
Somebody else
cars,
is controlling it. The government's gonna take it over just to keep you safe. This is mostly done in Britain. But
right.
This is too shady.
Oh, and you're in a you're an opposing voice to what we have to do or say. Well, guess what? You're gonna have a very rough ride home.
Oh yeah, and speaking about that, he was pointing out that Ron Paul said that Hillary was behind ISIS. That takes balls to say that, especially to the establishment. So that guy, he's got to check for bombs in his plane and make sure nobody hacked his car and watch his back, really.
Well, I look at it like this: we've talked about this before.
Yeah,
there are a couple of ways that they can take somebody out.
Definitely.
You can take them out physically, kill them off, or you can kill their character. You can totally discredit
they can't kill
somebody.
Alex Jones or Jesse Ventura, Ron or Rand Paul, so they just go after their character.
Right. Because they know if they take these people out,
there'll be a revolution.
As high profile as they are, there could be some credence to what they're saying.
It's a revolution if something happens. So
yeah.
So don't expect.
But I mean,
you can't expect people to just back down. If Ron Paul ends up like JFK, there's gonna be hell to pay.
Well, we'll see. I mean,
so what were you saying? Any other ways somebody could be killed? Also, bugging their car, bombing their plane.
It's the physical way, and you can go after their character. You can, defamation of character. You can just drag their name through the mud. Those are the two ways that you can take somebody out. You completely discredit them, or you kill them. And one of two ways.
That as far as the plane, it wasn't bombed, but what if the pilot also is ordered to do suicide or something, or the plane just malfunctions? Because if you even look it up, Jenny Rivera, she was the Hispanic singer, Mexican American, and she died in a plane crash not too long ago.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you heard that story.
I didn't.
And so basically, they say a cartel was after her, etc. And you even in some of the Google pictures, they would even include the body parts. But most likely, what happened to her plane? This was no accident. The pilot or the plane, something was there, but people are just don't know for sure. Not even the Mexican government has a clue on this. But they're probably run by the cartels, so maybe they just pretend like they don't have a clue.
Hey, anything's possible.
Yeah, the sky's the limit. If people don't know about this stuff, the sky's the limit. They could do anything. Killing somebody to them would be just like any regular day.
Exactly. And honestly, I keep my mind open to all the possibilities. I don't just say, "Oh, well, it's this one thing," because we could be looking at the Google cars in a completely off-kiltered way, and they could be the greatest thing in the world. But at the same time,
we're not being run by a system that really cares about you. We got to get that straight. We're not run by a system that doesn't want to take away your guns or force to inoculate you or spy on you or poison you.
Right. And see, that's the key difference is we don't have a system in place that's actually doing its job. We have a system in place that's trying to control your life. They want to control every aspect of your life, and that's not cool. That's not what this country was founded on.
Now back to the question I had on ISIS. There's a bunch of people in the military that actually came out and said, "Yeah, we are funding ISIS."
Mm-hmm.
What's your take on this? Since you're a veteran, so you probably would know more than me, obviously.
Again, I mean, I can only speak for myself and the research that I've done on it. We were funding Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda is ISIS.
95% they defect to ISIS, basically. The certain rebels, they'll defect to ISIS, so.
But it's really not even defecting to ISIS. I mean, Al-Qaeda is ISIS. It's one and the same. All it is just a different name for the same face.
They change the name to confuse you.
Yes.
We also have a history of kind of moving in and out of Pakistan. I mean, let's remember here, the people we are fighting today, we funded
still are
20 years ago.
Exactly.
And we did it because we were locked in this struggle with the Soviet Union. They invaded Afghanistan, and we did not want to see them control Central Asia. And we went to work. And it was President Reagan in partnership with the Congress, led by Democrats, who said, you know what, sounds like a pretty good idea. Let's deal with the ISI and the Pakistani military, and let's go recruit these mujahideen. And let's get some to come from Saudi Arabia and other places, importing their Wahhabi brand of Islam so that we can go beat the Soviet Union. And guess what? They retreated. They lost billions of dollars, and it led to the collapse of the Soviet Union. So there's a very strong argument, which is, wasn't a bad investment to end the Soviet Union, but let's be careful what we sow because we will harvest. So we then left Pakistan. We said, okay, fine, you deal with the stingers that we've left all over your country. You deal with the mines that are along the border. And by the way, we don't want to have anything to do with you. In fact, we're sanctioning you. So we stopped dealing with the Pakistani military and with ISI, and we now are making up for a lot of lost time.
Oh, come on now.
She said it herself.
And we still are.
Yeah, I mean, think about that, though. I mean, what she said is a perfect reason why they come after us. I'll see you later. Seriously, I mean, it's called blowback.
Blowback?
That's what it is. It's called blowback. Ron Paul said it. They're not coming over here to kill us because they hate our freedom. They're coming over here to kill us because
we let that happen. we tell the government to stand down like Dick Cheney told DARPA to stand down.
Yeah. So that's what it is we're over there getting our nose into something we shouldn't be getting into, and it's coming back and it's biting us in the ass. That's the blunt way to put it.
Yeah. And by the way, is there a way to contact active troops? Because we have to like warn them. And some of them, they're being injected like RFID chips or something with sword. I'm sure you would probably know about it more.
I've heard that,
they are being injected that, and people who are trying to these soldiers who are trying to fight or come here and defend the homeland, they're getting rid of them. That's like saying Al Qaeda destroyed the Navy SEAL plane. Most likely that helicopter was blown up. I don't know.
Right, and there's a lot of family members of those dead SEALs that have come out and said, "Hey, look, this is what's going on, and it needs to be investigated."
They're not gonna investigate, of course. You would have to, not even if you were like, even if you had armed bodyguards, it'd still be too shady. But I am right about them injecting chips inside the soldiers. No matter what faction of the military you are. They're doing that, right?
I haven't heard of them actually implementing it, but that was one of the things on the drawing board that they wanted to do. I don't know if they've gone ahead with it or not, but
you saw this
that was something on the drawing board.
Because like the stuff that you see in the military, some of it's like undescribable, and some of it like it's hard to even explain. But I'm sure you've seen a lot, so.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a few things, but again, I've been out of the military now since 2012 when I got out of the Guard. So I was out of active duty for 4 years at that point, and a lot has changed. I mean, a buddy of mine recently just got out of the military, and he was telling me, dude, I'm so happy to be home because they were telling us some crazy shit. I was like, oh yeah, what's that? And he's like, oh, well, they're telling us we might have to turn the guns on the American people. We have to be prepared for a civil war.
Oh boy.
And I was like, oh, really? He's like, yeah, it's crazy. So
that is
it
unbelievable.
was an eye-opener, to say the least.
Wow. That's
and I'm sorry to be dropping, swear words on you, but it was one of those things that he's like, yeah, dude, this is some craziness going on right now, and they're looking at us turning guns on the American population. We have to be ready for civil war kind of stuff.
But they're not gonna want to.
Sorry, hold on one second. I'm gonna put you on mute. Hold on. Little man just came in. He's got to get his butt changed.
So they're not gonna do that. They're not gonna point the guns at the American people. That's just too much. That they're not actually gonna do it. I only hope.
Well, you can hope, but there are some people out there that are so, America, rah rah, sis boom bah, we're number one, that are programmed that will do it.
Patriotism.
They kick a lot of guys out that are coming home because they say that they're not going to turn their guns on the American population.
And they'll get people that are going to follow orders. But yeah,
right, they want
nobody
robots.
Is angry. Nobody gets questions about this stuff.
Right. So, that's what it comes down to is, do I protect my family or do I shoot my family? A lot of guys are going to say, I'm going to protect my family. So, another way to look at it, too, is if we're in a constant state of war, which we currently are, we don't have our troops on the ground at home. So when something breaks out here, they have to bring in...
The troops are being sitting ducks. That's how I see it. The troops are being sitting ducks. The U.S. is being attacked. There's not going to be any homeland in the next few years. So,
and now you're starting to see it is, if our troops are overseas, conducting operations overseas, we don't have any troops at home to defend the country. So guess who they bring in to defend the country? Foreign troops who will take orders to shoot American civilians.
The UN troops.
Yes.
Oh, they're not. The people are not. I'm sure they're gonna realize this. They're gonna wake themselves up. They're gonna wake up because once they just call for martial law, the UN troops come in. It's gonna hit the fan. You've heard of that bill that it was introduced in Congress somewhere in 2013, where the U.S. can actually get out of the UN.
I didn't hear of that, and I think it would be a great idea if we got out of the UN altogether.
And
I think we should get out of the UN.
Whenever I try to even tell people why isn't the U.S. get out of the UN? They keep giving me these guilt trips of, the UN. What do you have against the UN? United nothing, if you ask me. It's called H.R. 75, to end membership of the United States in the United Nations.
Right.
Do you know what has happened to that?
Say again?
Do you know what has happened to that bill?
I don't. Honestly, this is the first I've heard of it. Like I tell you all the time, there is so much information out there. It's hard to keep track of the stuff that I've looked at because I'm filling my brain with so much stuff, and I'm trying to raise my family at the same time. It's like, oh my God, try to balance it out so I don't go nuts. So I haven't heard of that. And if there is a bill out there and it's the HR 75 that you're saying get the hell out of the UN, I am all for it. Get us out of the UN. There's no reason for us to be involved with them.
And by the way, as far as that, there's Audit the Fed, which passes the House. But recently, Democrats are coming out against the Fed. Audit the Fed bill. Well, obviously, the Federal Reserve has got to be audited and most likely just shut down. It has to be.
Yeah, if you can audit the Fed and shut the Fed down, the next one is the IRS. Well, if you get rid of the IRS and you let people hold on to the money that they earned and worked hard for, guess what you'll see in this country? You will see a drastic change. People will have money to go out and buy things. People will have money to put away and invest in their country versus buying all of this crap from other countries. we'll be able to start taking care of ourselves better because we don't have to worry about the tax man reaching into our pockets every 5 minutes for something.
Well, and it's also the next thing, the classified 28 pages of 9/11.
Yep, I've heard about that.
And even congressman like Walter Jones has read it, and they say they're gonna reveal the 28 pages, or at least some of it. But I'm like, you have to release all of it, not some of it, all of it.
Right.
But I feel like they're gonna try to stage a false flag. It could be something like the Paris attacks, or it could be something, because obviously the establishment does not want the stuff to go on. They don't want the Fed to be audited because it's their master's bank. They don't want the classified 28 pages of 9/11 being released. And
well, I mean, my question for people that say, that are against the release of those 28 pages, what are you so afraid about learning?
Who are you trying to protect? Who are you trying to
hide? Who are you trying to protect? I'm talking about like the general population that says, why do we need to know what those 28 pages say? It's a matter of national security. Well,
actually, there's gonna be less national security if stuff goes down, if stuff hits the fan. At the moment we don't even have much national security. We're in Ukraine. We're fighting ISIS. Our security is just dying little bit by little bit. So I don't know how much more people can actually take.
Right. I mean, when you think about it like that, is how far do we go? I want to know what those 28 pages have to say. If it's already been seen by certain members of Congress, then why isn't everybody allowed to see it? Oh, because it might actually go against what the establishment has already put out there?
At least the ones that are controlling the calling all the shots, that is.
Well, I mean, one of the things that's come up is that they're finding it was Saudi Arabia was somehow involved in it.
Yeah, how they quarterback the whole thing. But
right.
Nobody knows that yet. Well, I'm sure a lot of people know, but the population doesn't really know about that yet. But I can't imagine the reaction when they find out that Saudi Arabia, and we didn't invade Saudi Arabia, we invaded Iraq, which obviously we were not supposed. It would be more reasonable to probably go after Saudi Arabia than Iraq.
Right. And honestly, another thing a lot of people fail to realize is that the weapons of mass destruction that may have been found, we gave them.
We gave, of course, and they say Syria, Bashar has to go down, and people are like, Bashar tortures his own people. Is there proof that he tortures his own people?
Nope. There's proof that there are crazy Al Qaeda people going out there screaming Allah Akbar and blowing themselves up as they're launching chemical weapons.
But Bashar is actually fighting ISIS. He's actually fighting for his life. Yep. Russia's helping him out.
So.
And people still have, it's like people are indoctrinated to who they have to like, who they have to dislike, etc. I'm getting tired of this, man.
No, that's why I keep telling people, it's like, instead of standing out in front of the crowd yelling at them to wake up and turn around, you have to stand in the middle, because in a crowd full of lemmings, most people are going to go off the cliff. If you stand further back, you might have a chance of slowing people down, and those who are already crossed the point of no return, well, it's too late for them, but you might be able to affect change at the back of the bus. So
the part about the cliff and I didn't understand that quote too well.
What I'm saying is, you get a bunch of lemmings. Okay, lemons just go off the cliff, right? Instead of standing in front of them saying, hey, you're going to go off the cliff, stand further back in the crowd. You have a chance of saving the people that are further back in the crowd than those that are at the point of no return. Because once they've already crossed that line, they're going over the cliff. If you're at the back of the crowd or further back from the cliff, you have a chance of helping people.
Well,
So instead of saying, hey, stop, you're going to go off the cliff, you go back into the crowd and you say, hey, look, there is a cliff coming up. I would recommend that you guys turn around or go a different way. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, now I get it. But people, what's it gonna take for people to actually just realize this? Is it gonna take just taking away their rights, like everything they have?
But you see, a lot of people don't give a crap about their rights, because if they did, they'd be screaming more. The people that are screaming about their rights are the ones that care, and they're looked at like loony bins. I mean, I can sit here all day long and tell people, you know what? You're losing every single right because you are not standing up for them. And they're like what? Your First Amendment rights. And they're like, okay, well, what about that? If I go out and I offend somebody, they're going to silence me because I offended someone? No. You came here looking for freedom to get away from your oppression, and you're offended by what I have to say? Well, you know what? Tough. I have the right to say what I want. You don't have to listen, but I'm going to say it anyways. And a lot of people don't grasp that. The Second Amendment. I have the right to carry around a pistol with me, or have a rifle or a shotgun, or whatever the case is. That's my right, because it's used to protect myself and my family. I can also use it to go hunting, which the Second Amendment is not for hunting purposes. It is to protect this country from a rogue government, a government gone out of control, which, if you look at what's going on, the government's gaining more ground. But to flip that coin, a federal judge just recently shot down Eric Holder, saying that the interstate ban on the sale of firearms, as far as handguns is concerned, that's unconstitutional. So if I want to go up to New Hampshire, or I want to go to New York and buy a pistol, I can go to New York and buy a pistol without anybody shutting me down.
Well, federal judge strikes down federal interstate handgun transfer ban. This
Yes.
is from Reason.com.
Yep.
And even Eric Holder, I can't believe this video doesn't go viral, where you have him say, "Oh, let's brainwash people." You know, it's right.
I've also asked the school board to make a part of every day some kind of anti-violence, anti-gun message. Every day, every school, at every level. One thing that I think is clear with young people and with adults as well is that we just have to be repetitive about this. It's not enough to simply have a catchy ad on a Monday and then only do it every Monday. We need to do this every day of the week and just really brainwash people into thinking about guns in a vastly different way.
Why isn't he fired or arrested? Well, only in America we put up with so much.
Because here's the thing, is the federal government's investigating the federal government. That's why nobody's been indicted. That's why nobody's going to jail, because the federal government is investigating the federal government. If these people who are holding these hearings, and one person I can say might actually do something is Trey Gowdy. If he gets in front of Hillary, which is going to happen, and says, "You're going to jail," that woman will go to jail.
Trey Dowdy? Never heard of him.
Trey Gowdy.
Trey Gowdy?
Yep. Look him up.
It says,
if that guy gets in front of
Valerie,
if he gets in front of Hillary and she starts backpedaling, he will send her to jail.
But she's not gonna go to jail. That's what I'm trying to tell everybody. She's not going to go to jail. It's and they'll probably go after him. He would have to be as high profile. That way, his murder isn't left unnoticed.
But that's
if you
the
are
thing,
high profile,
he is very high profile right now because he's heading up the Benghazi hearings. He's the lead guy, and he's not backing down from anybody. He's putting people in their place.
So what exactly really happened in Benghazi? Hillary knew that U.S. ambassadors were killed, and she just won't admit it's true. What do you think really happened in Benghazi?
As far as Benghazi is concerned, and again, this is only the research that I've done, the ambassador that was killed was getting ready to blow the whistle that we were doing a gun running over there and arming people that were not supposed to be arming.
Oh, whistleblower.
Yeah. And what happened was the base got overrun. they called for help. They were denied help, and people died.
Oh.
So that's what happened. And
she still won't tell. She still won't tell the truth on Benghazi. What's her official story exactly? That
I don't know what her official deal is, but she's not coming out and telling the truth. She's saying that, yeah, we told them that you need to get out of there, or whatever the case is. All I know is that Americans are dead. She was in charge, and she needs to be held responsible for it. That's all I know, is she needs to be held responsible for her actions, and she's not at this current point.
It was one picture I read not too long ago. It was like, I don't think it was a meme, but it had text saying that, oh, we could have gotten backup somewhere in Benghazi, but Obama just stood there and just watched, and then meanwhile we were killed, and he just sit there watching, sit back, and watch us get shot, but he did not do anything. And something about and it considered, like, it called him cowardly, etc.
Yeah. I mean, from what I've heard, is he wasn't even in the room. Same with Hillary. They weren't even in the room. No, sorry, that was something else. Like I said, my brain's all over the place with all the information in there, and it's like I pieced together a couple of things, and it's like, oh yeah, this is what's going on. No, sorry, that was a different event. But yeah, and it was also on September 11th. That's another key factor too, is they're trying to say that it was a terrorist attack. Well, it was a terrorist attack. And we didn't send in help. That's what it comes down to, is we didn't send in help, and our guys died.
And nobody gets in trouble? Not even.
Nope,
so
nobody's gotten in trouble yet.
And
the only people that have gotten in trouble are those who tried to help.
And I don't. Rand Paul. I can't imagine what that guy's going to right now.
What do you mean?
Yeah, because he actually standing up to, and he can even say Hillary. He calls Hillary behind ISIS.
Yeah.
But they're probably gonna go after him in a way. That's my prediction. I really hope I'm wrong, because they're gonna try to go after him, and they're gonna be just straight out with it. They're gonna be pointed just right out there. They're just gonna go. They might as well just declare the country martial law. These people are like, we got them cornered, but they can't kill them because then everybody would know.
Right.
So when do you think Trey Gowdy might talk? You say he was gonna talk Hillary in the same room, and he's gonna question her.
Yeah, he's supposed to be questioning Hillary about Benghazi sometime soon. I don't know when exactly, but he's already subpoenaed her, and she's supposed to appear before the Benghazi hearing, and she's going to get ripped up.
And
I mean, if you get a chance, after we finish talking, get online and look up Trey Gowdy and some of the confrontations he's had with people about Benghazi, and he is no joke. He's going after these people like a dog with rabies. He doesn't care. He's going to bring the system down.
Thank you, Jimmy. We will not waver in our commitment to see that justice is done for this terrible act in Benghazi. And make no mistake, justice will be done. That was the President of the United States over a year ago. We're investigating exactly what happened, but my biggest priority now is bringing those folks to justice.
Oh.
That was the President of the United States over a year ago. No one has been arrested. No one has been prosecuted. No one has been brought to justice. We don't even have access to the witnesses. You and the media were good enough for my 16 years as a prosecutor not to tell me how to do my job. And so far in Congress, y'all have been good enough not to tell me how to do my job. I'm not telling you how to do your job. But I'm going to ask you some questions, and if you can't answer these questions, then I'll leave you to draw whatever conclusion you want to draw about whether or not the media has provided sufficient oversight. Can you tell me why Chris Stevens was in Benghazi? the night that he was killed? Do you know? Does it bother you whether or not you know why Chris Stevens was in Benghazi?
Crickets.
Do you know why we were the last flag flying in Benghazi after the British had left and the Red Cross had been bombed?
More crickets.
Do you know why requests for additional security were denied?
No
Do you know why an ambassador asking for more security days and weeks before he was murdered and those requests went unheeded? Do you know the answer to why those requests went unheeded? Do you know why no assets were deployed during the siege? And I've heard the explanation, which defies logic, frankly, that we couldn't have gotten there in time, but you know they didn't know when it was going to end. So how can you possibly cite that as an excuse? Do you know whether the president called any of our allies and said, can you help? We have men under attack. Can you answer that? Do any of you know why Susan Rice was picked? The Secretary of State did not go. She says she doesn't like Sunday talk shows. That's the only media venue she does not like, if that's true. Why was Susan Rice on the 5 Sunday talk shows? Do you know the origin of this mythology that it was spawned as a spontaneous reaction to a video? Do you know where that started? Do you know how we got from no evidence of that to that being the official position of the administration?
Which it came out.
In conclusion, Congress is supposed to provide oversight. The voters are supposed to provide oversight. And you were supposed to provide oversight. That's why you have special liberties, and that's why you have special protections. I am not surprised that the President of the United States called this a phony scandal. I'm not surprised that Secretary Clinton asked, what difference does it make? I'm not even surprised that Jay Carney said Benghazi happened a long time ago.
Yeah.
I'm just surprised at how many people bought it.
Many comments are like, this guy should be president, etc.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I agree. I mean, he's standing his ground, and he's not backing down. He's going to go and do his job. And like I said, when he gets in front of Hillary, she's done for.
But what if she's not arrested?
We were misled that there were supposedly protests, and then something sprang out of that, an assault sprang out of that. And that was easily ascertained that was not the fact. And the American people could have known that within days, and they didn't know that.
With all due respect, the fact is we had 4 dead Americans. Was it because of a protest, or was it because of guys out for a walk one night who decided they'd go kill some Americans? What difference at this point does it make?
I don't know if I got the voice right, but
you were very close.
Yeah, but you see, I never actually. There's no talk about the mainstream media probably until after this, so it's probably gonna be like in a few days from now, maybe. You'll get it.
I have no idea. I'll look into it and I'll shoot you a message about that later.
All right. By the way, is there any way for people like, because I've said this off air, and for instance, any places that the feds will hide, like in Switzerland or Monte Carlo or London or New Zealand, that they're gonna hide out. Is there do the citizens know about this?
Some people do know about that, and they've been blowing the whistle on it. They're looking at private islands. They're looking at Switzerland. They're looking at New Zealand.
The government of that country bought that they can't realize. It's like having a rapist in your neighborhood. That's how I see it.
Right, and honestly, it's not so much that the country knows; it's that the country's been bought. The entire country has been bought.
But what about the citizens? Don't they have any say in that? Or everybody needs to be armed?
They don't know. They don't know. The only difference between them and us, honestly, is that they don't know that their country has been bought. We know, or at least some of us do, that our country has been bought.
What exactly do you mean by bought? Is it like
the bankers, and not even so much the bankers, the ruling elite, as you will. They have bought this country by buying the politicians and having the corporations stepping way over their boundaries.
But there's a reason. There's a reason. There's a reason for this. There's a reason education sucks, and it's the same reason that it will never, ever be fixed.
He said it the right way.
He
said it exactly the right way.
Don't look for it. Be happy with what you got. because the owners of this country don't want that.
And they got him as well. Heart attack, a natural heart attack. Yeah, I wonder if that gun was involved. But as far as Switzerland, somebody off air has told me that Switzerland, they killed a bunch of parliament members on broad daylight. Google took out the pages. Was that true?
I don't know. I didn't hear anything about that.
Yeah, the parliament members, they were like on the footsteps of the parliament building in Switzerland, and these people just came and killed them in broad daylight. And then eventually they gave up the gold standard months later.
Then they gave up the gold standard months later?
Yeah. That was like a blackmail or something. And
I don't know. Giving up the gold standard? That doesn't sound right.
Yeah,
I don't know why anybody
I feel
would
like
want to give that.
Switzerland is not as neutral as people would think. They may have been out of the wars, but what if Switzerland was controlled and they say, oh, we're going to hide in Switzerland somewhere. Let's leave Switzerland out of this. So they'll engineer this as just they're going to make Switzerland out of World War. They're going to keep them out of the world wars. But there was also a connection with the Vatican and Hitler and the Nazis and gold in Switzerland. Tell me there's a bunch of documentaries.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge, huge web that only some people get so deep into. And I mean, there's huge amounts of information, and you have to decipher what's real and what's not and make an educated decision on what you want to do with that information also. I mean, you and I can sit here and have a long, drawn-out conversation about what's going on in the world, but somebody that's listening, what are they going to do with that information? Are they going to look up what we're talking about? Are they going to fact-check us? Or are they just going to sit there and say, oh, this is entertaining radio? You know what I mean? So you can go out and do all the research in the world and know what's going on, like some people do, but, well, that's great. If you don't want to act on what you know for the better, then it's just trivia at that point. So, I don't know.
And you can't find it on Google. It's a bunch of stuff you can't even find, which is chances are that could have happened. And even though the citizens are all armed in Switzerland.
Oh, yeah.
There's no BS of, oh, should we arm people here? Should there be gun control? No BS. They have their bunkers. They have all kinds of stuff that they need in case of a crisis. Some of them even have cannons from World War I. And they are all armed.
All the Swiss citizens go through a gun safety course where they shoot. And I think they have a 2-year mandatory military service.
Yeah, it's required if you're 19.
And,
and even this
guy. Then at the end of it, you get to keep your firearm.
Here, I don't know if they do that. Do they let you keep your firearm here?
No, they don't.
Oh,
after
we gotta change that.
Hi, it's Sterling Allen here with PESN.com.
By the way, there was this video of this guy he's inside a Swiss bunker.
Check it out.
They have a huge metal door.
9 inches of concrete and steel.
Look at all the stuff that they get.
Holy cow.
And they have bombs in the railroads everywhere. Like, these people are like, wow. I imagine more like putting, like, to make it as a child analogy, it's like putting Legos all over your room.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. We can learn a lot from the Swiss. And as far as Pakistan, the teachers are taught how to use guns in case of a shooting. Why don't they do that here? Not just in Texas, but everywhere.
Here. Yeah. I mean, they're starting to do it now where they want to arm teachers here in the States.
It's on ABC
They want to arm teachers because of what's been going on. And guess what? It's gaining traction, and people are saying, absolutely, let's arm the teachers.
Here they should do that in more states. And it says in Washington Times, Pakistan allows teachers to carry guns in wake of Taliban school massacre.
Mm-hmm.
But you're not going to hear about that here. And one thing that was more crazy is the troops in Italy grow their own marijuana.
Okay.
I don't know if you heard of this story.
Nope, I didn't hear that. I think that's pretty cool, though.
But you're not going to hear about that stuff. Why don't we do that? It said from The Independent, marijuana to be grown by Italian army. Why don't we do that here in order to keep the price down?
I mean, if you look at hemp, okay, people are like, oh, hemp, it's marijuana. Well, yes and no. Hemp in and of itself, the industrial hemp, has no THC in it whatsoever. None. Zero. None. Nothing. No THC. Why can't we use hemp for industrial purposes? And a lot of people are like, oh, because, you can get high off it. No, you can't. It's a common misconception. Okay, as far as marijuana goes for the THC content, I don't know why they're not allowing us to grow it over here. I think it would be a good idea.
One part from George Soros, which is, I'm not saying he's good or anything, but he he would want marijuana to be legalized.
Yeah.
It's a $1 billion franchise, though. I think it should be legal.
I mean, think about this, though. If you just decriminalize drugs altogether, the hardcore stuff and the light stuff, if you just decriminalize it, you're going to see a drop.
Oh, yeah. Portugal did that not too long ago.
Exactly.
Now, it's a question that's frequently debated. What would happen if you effectively legalized the use of hard drugs such as heroin? 8 years ago in Portugal, the law was changed so that possessing or using any illicit drug was no longer a crime. At the time, there were warnings the policy would be disastrous and that the country would become a European haven.
For the past 8 years, residents have seen a remarkable change.
This woman is smoking heroin. In most of the world, it's a crime, but here in Portugal, there's no way she'd be sent to prison for it.
Come on, man. I'm not advocating drugs, but I think we should decriminalize them because the jails are being just filled purposely because of the private corporations that run them, and they have like stocks and all that.
Right. I mean, if anybody, honestly, and I'm not an investor, and I cannot give investment advice or legal advice for that matter. But if people want to make money, look at the sectors that are booming. The prison systems.
And you had to look at the law as well, because even there was one site called ILoveGrowingMarijuana.com, but their disclaimer is that they have to go by the law no matter what. Which I don't know how Colorado and Washington State actually legalized marijuana and they got away with it. Kind of sucks for the other states where they're not going to be able to get money.
Oh, seriously, what did California, or not California, sorry. What did Colorado and Washington get away with? What they did was they exercised their state's right. They said the federal government could kiss our ass. We're going to let our citizens do whatever they want as long as they're not harming anybody, and we're going to tax them for it. The sin tax, like you got sin tax for cigarettes and sin tax for your alcohol, You're going to tax people for it. And guess what? They have so much money they can give money back to the people. Because it was that much of a drastic
It reminds me of the Federal Reserve, how if the government actually just got their stuff together and actually made the Federal Reserve really federal, belongs to this country, the government can issue its own money backed by gold, and they could spread it around everywhere. Even in Switzerland, I think the government gives like $2,000 a month to the citizens in Switzerland. The government could probably do that something like that here.
Well, the government in Switzerland, if I recall it correctly, is if you have a child, you get up to 60% of what you were getting paid while you're on leave. Both parents get to take the leave, and I want to say they're out for 6 months. I would have to look into that again, but they get paid 60% of their employment money for 6 months while they're raising that child.
That's a lot of money. And
yeah,
is that the case here or no?
No, that's not the case here. And I can vouch for that because Christy, when we were, having kids, she had Brian and she was out for 2 weeks. She went back to work.
They couldn't let her go for a longer time besides 2 weeks?
No, it was like 2-3 weeks was the max, was 3 weeks. She had Abigail, and I think at that point she was let go. But when she had Brian, she was only out for maybe like 3 weeks tops, and she had to go right back to work.
Oh, man. We can learn so much from other countries. And And how can we warn others about this? Like about what exactly is the system being rolled out? Some people are into radio, like I am. Some people are telling me that the city council, etc. Like, how? What's your perspective? Like, how can we warn people about this? Because in the coming few months, I predict there's gonna be some deep.
Well, as far as what we, the common people, can do to alert other people of what's going on is exactly what you're doing right now. You're getting other people who are like-minded to have conversations about things that may be taboo. You're educating people without being preachy. And I think that's one of the big things that needs to be addressed, is that you want to get out there and you want to help people out and educate them what's going on. But people tend to look at you like you're out of your mind if you're preaching this stuff. There are times when I might listen to InfoWars and Alex goes off on a rant. Well, I love Alex to death. I think he's got a great show. His message is strong. He's very passionate. But there are times I have to turn him off, and it's not because he's intense. It's because I almost feel distracted by the information he's trying to give out because he's ranting. You know what I mean? It's like he's preaching. And a lot of people get turned off by preaching. If you just go out and you have educated discussions and you can point people to the resources to do their own research, you're going to wake a lot more people. You're going to wake up a lot more people. And that's my perspective, is take people one at a time or a small group and just talk to people. Have an open discussion. Ask people questions. Get their answers. Point them in the right direction. Don't tell them that they're wrong, but explain to them, hey, look, here's another way you might want to look at it. Look at the way that they're looking at it, too. It's like having an interview.
Wow.
So that's my perspective.
Oh, and before you go, what message would you like to say to everybody who's listening?
To everybody that's listening, I would highly recommend that if you want to see an honest-to-God change in the world, you have to start with yourself. And once you have your house in order, so to speak, then you can help others. But before you go and make a move, you have to get your ducks in a row. Definitely get your ducks in a row. Research. Make up your mind. Have an educated decision. Have an educated process with the whole thing, too. That's the key factor, is have an educational knowledge of what's going on. Don't preach it. Get your house in order. Help others. Build a community. From the community, you go to the local level. From the local level, you expand out. And that's how it'll change everything. Get as much information as you can and share it with others.
All right. Well, it was awesome having you on, Jeremy. Hopefully next few months you can be on again.
All right. If anybody wants to sign up for classes, I do teach classes so they can learn how to retrofit engines to run off of pretty much anything. I'll share the link with you. It's geetrofits.webs.com. I have a class coming up next week, weather pending, and then another class coming up in March. So hopefully I can get back on and we can have another conversation before then. But if not, it's been great, man. I appreciate you having me on.
No problem. Thank you for being on.
Hey, you're welcome. Enjoy the rest of your evening, sir. And I will be sure to listen once I figure out how to listen to your show.
All right. Thank you. You too.
No problem. Have a good one, man.
Nice. You too.
Bye.
Bye. Wow. So it's unbelievable. So much stuff that has been brought up, even as a theory, has actually coming out. You know, something that somebody said 10 years ago. Oh man, you're nuts. That's not gonna come. That's not gonna happen. And then you hear mainstream media talking about it. So a lot of kudos to Alex, because he's been right over so many predictions. You know, when it comes to the tracker boxes in your cars, or just forced inoculation, or any of that stuff. It's important to just make your own theory, but you hate that it's actually being the case. You know, you don't wish you were right. You wish you were wrong. Why would you want to be right about this stuff, you know? But remember, just spread the word. Stay vigilant. You know, the price of liberty is eternal vigilance. So how long can you keep this as a free country the way it's meant to be? Don't F it up, people. It's up to us. It's up to the world to take everything back from the ones who are ruining it and actually trying to get rid of everybody and everything. You know? Think about it.